This is Capitol Report, live from our global headquarters in our nation's capital. Here's Steve Lance.
And good evening. The Supreme Court is issuing ICE to resume immigration stops in Los Angeles. And in a separate case, Chief Justice Roberts letting President Trump remove a member of the FTC. NTD's Arlene Richards has the details.
In a 6-3 ruling on Monday, the Supreme Court restores the Department of Homeland Security's efforts to detain suspected illegal immigrants in Los Angeles. The majority decision puts on hold the July 11th ruling by a Los Angeles-based district judge who said immigration agents could not stop people because of their race, language, job, or location. And it clears the way for federal agents to continue immigration operations in the city. The lower court judge had found that agents were conducting indiscriminate stops in and around Los Angeles. Justice Brett Kavanaugh said in a concurring opinion on Monday that immigration law permits agents to interrogate individuals believed to be illegal immigrants. He said given the circumstances in the Los Angeles area, such as an extremely high number and percentage of illegal immigrants who typically work in certain types of jobs and tend to gather in certain places, it was reasonable for agents to be suspicious. Justice Sonia Sotomayor said in a dissenting opinion, joined by Justices Ketanji Brown Jackson and Elena Kagan, that the government shouldn't be permitted to seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work in a low-wage job. She said many people had been mistreated and handcuffed, for example, because of their looks and their accents. The court's ruling to pause the lower court's injunction will remain in place while the government appeals that court's decision. In another Supreme Court emergency decision on Monday, Chief Justice John Roberts granted the administration's request to remove a member of the Federal Trade Commission. President Trump attempted to fire Rebecca Slaughter in the spring. Lower courts ordered that she be reinstated, ruling that the administration could remove her only for cause, like misconduct or neglect of duty. Roberts halted those decisions in a brief order, but asked opposing counsel to respond to Trump's arguments. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
President Trump doubling down on his pledge to boost safety in the city of Chicago. This even as Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker pushing back against federal involvement. Homeland Security saying it's stepping up its operations in the state. NTD's Jason Blair reports.
We'll fix Chicago.
During remarks to the White House Religious Liberty Commission, President Donald Trump says that he's eyeing Chicago for a similar operation that's now underway in Washington, D.C.
We'd love to go into Chicago and straighten it out. You know, Washington, D.C., you'll be happy to know, is a free and safe zone. It's so safe right now.
Trump also criticized
cashless bail started a wave in our country where a killer kills somebody and is out on the street by the afternoon. In many cases, going out and killing again.
Last week, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said that if the White House sends National Guard troops to Chicago, he'll immediately push back in court.
That's going to be our first line of defense, is getting a court to issue a TRO or other injunction against that activity.
Pritzker has openly opposed ICE agents operating in the city and has encouraged residents to do the same.
If you have the opportunity, please protest. Pull out your phone, video everything that they're doing.
On Monday, DHS announced Operation Midway Blitz. The department says the ICE operation will target criminal illegal aliens who have flocked to Chicago and Illinois. And it's, quote, in honor of Katie Abraham, who was killed in a drunk driving hit-and-run car wreck caused by criminal illegal alien Julio Kukulbol in Illinois. And this announcement comes one day after White House Border Czar Tom Homan says that ICE activities will be increasing in Chicago and other cities around the country.
You can expect action in most sanctuary cities across the country. President Trump's prioritized sanctuary cities because sanctuary cities knowingly release illegal alien public safety threats to the streets every day. That's where the problem is.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Turning now to the latest developments with the Jeffrey Epstein files. The House Oversight Committee receiving its first batch of documents from the late sex offender's estate. The file reportedly contains a trove of letters gifted to Epstein for his 50th birthday. The documents, known as the Birthday Book, could provide new details on who was involved in Epstein's inner circle. The committee subpoenaed the file last month as part of its investigation into this matter. Democrats on the panel suggesting that President Trump wrote one of those letters and put his signature on it. The president and his administration have denied the accusation, with the White House Deputy Chief of Staff calling it defamation and the White House press secretary commenting on the timeliness of the Wall Street Journal's article from when they published it and got comment being very close. A federal appeals court today upholding President Trump's $83.3 million jury verdict in the defamation case from writer E. Jean Carroll. Trump's attorneys argued the judgment was both excessive and invalid, relying on a Supreme Court decision that expanded presidential immunity. They challenged actions by the trial court judge, such as throwing out a portion of Trump's testimony and instructing the jury on punitive damages. The panel today ruling against those arguments. Ms. Carroll had sued President Trump in 2019 over 2 statements he made denying allegations of sexual assault. And President Trump launching the America Prays initiative, tying the effort to America's 250th birthday celebrations. He's also donating his family Bible to the Bible Museum. NTD's Mari Otsu has more from the White House.
America has always been a nation that believes in the power of prayer, and we will never apologize for our faith, ever, ever, never, never.
President Trump is launching the America Prays initiative at the second White House Religious Liberty Commission hearing today.
We will never surrender our God-given rights. We will defend our liberties, our values, our sovereignty, and we will defend our freedom.
The initiative is calling on Americans to gather together in groups and pray for the country and its citizens each week. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Scott Turner, who opened President Trump's first cabinet meeting this term in prayer, is announcing today that more than 70 major faith organizations and churches are joining together to participate in the initiative. The president is tying the America Prays initiative into celebrations of America's 250th birthday next year. In July, the president kicked off an official year-long celebration called America 250 at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, where he foregrounded faith as critical to the U.S.'s founding and future.
So as we chart our course toward the next 250 years, let us rededicate ourselves to one nation under God.
President Trump is also announcing that the Department of Education will soon issue new guidance protecting the right to prayer in public schools. The president's announcement comes as he gives his family Bible, which was used in both his inaugurations, to the Museum of the Bible.
For thousands of years, the Bible has shaped civilization, ethics, art, and literature, and it's brought hope, healing, and transformation to untold millions and millions of lives. Just moments ago, I personally delivered the Trump family Bible given to me by my mother. I remember the time she gave it to me.
And the president saying that his administration has no tolerance for terrorism or political violence as he recounts the Annunciation Catholic school shooting in August.
We've seen far too many violent attacks perpetrated against Americans of faith. Our hearts are shattered for the families of those beautiful children.
President Trump is also responding to the fatal stabbing of a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee, saying the U.S. needs to be able to handle evil like that. The stabbing, which happened on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina, is raising calls for action on public safety. This comes as the Trump administration is touting the results of the D.C. crime crackdown and seems to be eyeing Chicago as the next city for a federal intervention. Reporting from the White House, Mari Otsu, NTD News.
Newly released security footage showing that brutal killing of a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee in Charlotte, North Carolina. The incident took place last evening, when a suspect suddenly pulled out a knife and stabbed the victim unprovoked. The perpetrator has been identified as 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. He's a homeless man with a history of mental illness and a lengthy criminal record going back more than a decade. Brown has been arrested at least 14 times on charges including armed robbery, assaults, and felony larceny. He's now officially charged with first-degree murder. Meantime, the victim, who fled war-torn Ukraine, was stabbed 3 times in the neck and was pronounced dead on the scene. In response to the tragic incident, local officials have renewed calls for attention on public safety in Charlotte. President Trump earlier today at the faith event in D.C. mentioning this horrific murder. And the Five Eyes Alliance is agreeing to assert more control over their borders to disrupt human smuggling gangs and discourage illegal crossings. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has more.
Tackling criminal smuggling gangs and increasing border security are at the top of the agenda as Homeland ministers from the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, that's the US, Britain, Canada, Australia and New Zealand, meet in London. US Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has been a leading figure in the Trump administration's approach to illegal immigration.
I would say the best progress that we can make with these 5 countries is agreements on sharing background information on transnational organizations, gangs, cartel members, terrorists that would wish to do our citizens harms.
Noem said that criminal gangs and cartels use social media to push their message, and said the Five Eyes allies need to be aggressive in pushing back against this. She said she is very vocal about messaging.
People around the world need to know that when you break the law in the United States of America, there's consequences for that, and you will be deported, and that you will not get the opportunity to come back to the United States.
She said she doesn't think the detention of illegal immigrant workers will deter investment in the United States. It comes after 475 workers, including over 300 South Koreans, were detained last week in an immigration raid at a Hyundai plant in Georgia, a move that shocked many in the US allied nation. Noem said such tough actions mean there is no uncertainty about the Trump administration's policies. She said that 1.6 million people who were in the US illegally have left voluntarily thanks to the influence of the government's messaging. British Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood said the allies are looking to do more work together,
particularly on how we deal with countries who do not take their citizens back. So making sure that we are able to return out of our countries people who have no right to be in our countries and send them back to their home countries.
People from Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Sudan and Syria account for 55% of illegal immigration to the UK. However, citizens of all those countries receive just 3% of visas issued for legal entry. Mahmoud proposed cutting the number of visas granted to countries that do not accept the return of illegal immigrants. She also said they need to address pull factors.
As Home Secretary, I'm very clear we do have to deal with the pull factors that are making the UK a destination of choice for those that are on the move around the world.
As well as people smuggling and illegal immigration, the Five Eyes allies discussed new measures to tackle those behind child sexual abuse online and how to stop the spread of deadly synthetic opioids. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
Coming up, as the Supreme Court clears the way for immigration patrols in California, should race and language be a factor in immigration enforcement? We'll discuss with our panel, Lee Neves and Bobby Eberle. And with the young Ukrainian refugee stabbed to death by the homeless man with a lengthy criminal record, we'll hear from the people in Washington, D.C. about how they feel about this crime when we return.